All right, we're going to call the March 31st meeting of the Planning and Development meeting to order. And we have a roll call.
Councilmember Harakaris.
Here.
Councilmember Ravel. Here. Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
Councilmember Reid.
Here. And I think we need one more.
No, we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We're good.
Out of
7.
Okay, yeah. All right, so with a quorum, we are ready to get started. With that, so I call this meeting to order. That'll bring us first to approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of the Planning and Development Committee on March 10th.
I move approval of those minutes.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Hadakatis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. The minutes are passed. With that, that brings us to public comment. We have 2 people signed up for public comment. One, and then we have a few online signups. So we have Pamela Powell Rosenbush, I think.
Hello. As you know from my talking on March 10th, I live across from the Grant Street development. Excuse me. While other builders have been constructing homes and completing developments during the same period of over a year, under the same conditions, Mr. Wallach of Blue Paint Development has not built anything on Grant Street. Why is he different? Perhaps because of his multiple companies' Chapter 11 bankruptcies. Why would it be easier in the next 6 months to get use of the capital markets, or that the mortgage environment would improve? Personally, I think as a retired head of commercial loan department at State National Bank and First National Bank of Oak Park, now both parts of Chase Bank, that those capital markets might be worse and that mortgage rates may rise. According to Mr. Wallach, on March 10th when he spoke here, he had only sold 2 units, and he had several letters of interest on several more. I believe the Planning and Development Committee needs to do a little more homework on this project. They should take notice that the reason he hasn't started construction during this period, which is over a year, is a lack of convincing banks or potential buyers that this is a viable project. With density of 12 small square foot units on 2 lots and charging the high price of a minimum, this is the sign on the property, of $449,000 for each unit, $449,000. There are condos, nice condos in Evanston that have 900 to
15 seconds, sorry.
1,100 square feet that are selling for $180,000 to $250,000 with 2 bedrooms and 2 baths. Please vote against this project. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next is Cynthia Beebe, followed by Guion Matthias, and Snide. Okay, yes, and then Michelle Chelbeck. All right, Ms. Beebe.
Hi.
Hello.
I have spoken many times before you. You can come over for dinner when this is over, maybe. But no, I'm going to ask you to just please apply your common sense here. Again, as everyone has said, these units are far, far too expensive. When I went into talk to this staff a couple of years ago, when this initially came up, they told me, I said, hey, this belongs under the plan development. They said, well, we're going to try to get it through under a special use permit. I don't know who approved that, and I couldn't care less. But that was a mistake. The amount of planning for a special use permit is not enough for such an incredibly important, long-lasting project as this. If the plan development regulation is too unwieldy, too time-consuming, and developers don't like it, then either change it or add a 3rd category for smaller developments like this that would make it maybe less than the existing plan development regulation, but more than the special use permit. Again, I don't know who came up with the idea. I'm not the least bit interested, but this has been a very disorganized and uncertain project. There's been uncertainty from day one on banking issues. The design of the units have repeatedly changed. The price of the units are constantly rising, and as we all know, will continue to rise with tariffs coming in. I would ask the council to look at your own planning, whether it's plan development, special use, or adding a third category between the two, so that we don't go down something as disorganized as this in the future. This is far too important. When we were here last week, I thought I wouldn't have put on a 6th grade bake sale with all the stuff he was saying to you. And I'm not kidding. This is far too important. We live there. It's part of Evanston. Anyways, please vote no. Thank you.
All right, next we have, sir.
It's a beautiful Swiss Romance name called Joe Matthias Schelbert. So thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Reid. My time starts now. Thank you. My name is Joe Matthias Schelbert. I live 2 doors away from this development. And I will just tell you a quick little history about me. I've been in the mortgage industry since 1993. I specialize in commercial real estate and investments. There's a reason why he has not gotten funding. He claimed verbally he did, but I can do all things verbal all day long. There's nothing written about it. Additionally, he claims that he has already sold 2 units, yet the MLS shows 0. That's a realtor violation, right? So the question is, where is the stuff in writing? The reason this thing is not working is because it's not a good development. And all you need to do is look over on Noy Street, where we have those lovely little containers that have probably dropped by tens of thousands of dollars the neighborhood value of other places. That goes against City of Evanston's directives here, right? Things cannot cause values to go down. And that's exactly what this monstrosity of a development is. He was not able to get financing in a year. I can get financing for a viable project in 30 days. I can close within 60. I've done it. I've closed over $1 billion. I know what I'm talking about. So I'm asking each and look at me, guys, please. Please vote no. Alderman, please vote no. Okay? Thank you, but I need you guys to vote no. Eleanor, not a single person in the entire neighborhood supports this. You represent us. We voted you in. The last thing you can do, and the most wonderful thing you can do for our neighborhood, is to vote our voice, not the developer's voice. We need you to support us. And all of you, if you could follow her suit and
15
vote no
seconds.
as well, I would really appreciate it. I have lived in Evanston my entire life. I'm embarrassed to live next to this thing. I don't know what it's going to do to my property, but I guarantee you it's not going to go up. It's going to go down. Thank you. Please vote no. Down.
Thank you. And then finally we have Michelle Chelbeck.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You could skip over me. I meant to sign up for the city council meeting next. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So that closes public comment, and then we'll add Councilmember Burns to the roll. That brings us to, is there anyone who wants to give public comment who did not? If not, then that brings us to our one item for consideration, which is item P1, Ordinance 25025, extending the time for the application to obtain a building permit to construct the efficiency home development at 1915 through 1917 Grant Street, previously authorized by Ordinance 18024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Ravel, seconded by
I'll second.
Councilmember Hedekadis. Is there any discussion on this item?
Can we hear from the?
Sure. So we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, again, I want to thank Planning Development and city staff and the council. I find it interesting that there are a lot of people that talk about us and don't talk to us. I've had the same phone number since 1992, and any of the questions that people that have stepped up to this dais to make comments could certainly have called me to verify their salacious accusations. If they're looking for verification, my phone number is 312-617-9018. The project itself has received approval from both Planning Development and City Council. We did not want to go in and start construction without having all of our financing in place, which we do. We have applied for our permits, which we are waiting to be issued. We timely applied for an extension of time. We weren't sure how long it was going to take the city of Evanston to approve our permits, so we thought that was the reasonable thing to do. We have had overwhelming support from people wanting to purchase units. You could see on some of the comments on some of the publications, the support within the neighborhood is quite extensive. So we appreciate the support that we've had before, and we request an extension of time. We wrote in 6 months on our request only because we don't know how long it's going to take to get permits. There's actually 17 different permits that are needed for the project. So we are diligently working through all of them, and the staff has done a great job in helping us. And again, I want to commend them. And from the beginning, and one other point that this project isn't a planned development because we tried to do something different. This project's a planned development because when we worked with the city on this project, for example, the units at one time were smaller, and Marion Johnson and Inclusionary Housing asked if we could make them a little bit larger to have 2 legitimate bedrooms, so we did that. The finishes on the outside, the impervious pavers, the landscaping, the color scheme, all of this was very well vetted and extensive meetings with the city, as was the process. So we can't do a planned development because we don't meet the square footage for the site to have a planned development. We'd have to change the zoning for a planned development in order to get a planned development. Having said that, we went out of our way to take all the steps that you would have in a planned development in order to do the special use, including having a study commissioned for this council. So for the people to step up and talk about the lack of scrutiny just because they haven't been or wanting to be involved in the process, which they could have been and can be at any point, but have elected to not do so, that's not to say that we haven't been involved in a very, very extensive process with city staff before we came to this dais. This project isn't project by Wallach. It's a project by city staff. We first started this conversation talking about a project that we're building in Evanston right now, and I was talking about something that has been true to my heart since the late 90s, which is affordable and attainable housing. If
I can ask for order in the room.
No, it's okay. I'll get to that in just one second. So since the late 90s, we've been working with the City of Chicago. I've spoken in front of the Commission on Human Relations in the City of Chicago. I was part of the project, the first project in Chicago that had an affordability component to it. So this is something we're doing. So we started talking to staff when we were talking about my other project, and I was talking about the need for missing middle housing. They said, oh my gosh, we need that here in Evanston. That's how the conversation started. It started with a piece of property that the city was thinking about RFPing. We went down that road. They decided not to RFP it. We were then introduced to the land seller of this property. That's how we got the property, was through introduction, through city staff. She's a wonderful lady and has stuck through all this, through thick and thin. And at every turn, we've approached and had discussions with city staff about this. And the notion that there is some in or something that we didn't do that was different than a planned development is just fallacy. There is absolutely no truth to it. As it relates to the affordable component, I find it really interesting that the people that have stepped up are clamoring for an affordable project. I can imagine if I came to this dais with a HUD project that wasn't market rate, that we were getting subsidies from the federal government or from city, what some of those conversations would have been like. So we are here to promote attainable housing in terms of price point. I avoid the word affordable because it has legislative connotation to it. But in the colloquial term of affordability, a $350,000 home is far less than $1,100,000 home. Final point, the quality of construction of what we are building, I have said it to staff multiple times, right? We've got a planet that's warming. 52% of our energy in this country is used on commercial buildings. They don't have a rating on what it is for residential. We need homes that perform better. And building codes, I'm not just about zoning here, building codes need to step up and start getting a little bit better. The International Building Code has an energy code to it, the 2012 OSHRA code. The International Residential Code doesn't. So let's build better. And the homes that we're building, I guarantee you, are better built and are better built than the homes of the people that are stepping up to this dais to complain about them. So people are going into my background.
All right, if I can,
So the quality of the housing that we're putting here is of the highest quality.
thank you. Councilmember Burns.
You know, when we talk about affordable housing, if we're using HUD's definition, I think people are thinking that word is not flexible, and it really is. It can mean something different depending on who you're talking to. If you're going by a strict definition of what affordability means for renters, it's usually looked at 60% and below. If you look at affordability for home ownership, it's right in between, I would say 80% area median income and maybe upwards of 120% area median income. While these properties may not be affordable for those who spoke today or people in the community, for a 5-person household, even a 4-person household, which I'm talking about myself, this is affordable. This is an option for somebody like me, especially if I had one child less, because I got 3 kids. I will say with a 2-bedroom be a little rough, but 1 kid less, making what I make, this is affordable for me. What does that mean? That means that the only other $300 and something thousand option, move-in ready for someone like me, is a condo. If I do not want a condo, or one is not available, but let's go back to the first thing. I don't want a condo. I just met somebody the other day, canvassing. They said, look, we were in a condo. We moved out of a condo and bought a home because we want to be a part of the community. We don't want to feel like we're put off somewhere. Right? We want to be in touch with the community, want to be in the community, part of the community. That's what this provides for someone like myself who would be in the market for a condo in Evanston, because I can't afford a move-in ready single family home in Evanston. And even if I wanted to buy one even at 400,000 right now, it's not move-in ready. You're spending another 50, 60, 70,000 just to bring it up to the standard that you want. So this is affordable. This is for home ownership. And so I don't even know why that's up for debate. Assuming that the price is in the 300s, this is affordable. Depending on your household size, this is affordable, period. This is a private development, not asking for any city money, right? Like, if he's not able to build it, then it sounds like some of the neighbors you win, right? It's not built and your property values won't go down. If he is able to fund it, then you're wrong, because he was able to finance it. But it's a private transaction. Let's see what he can do. It's the same thing we would allow anybody else to do, especially if they're not seeking any city funds. I've seen housing, especially affordable housing, that's not in great shape, especially aging affordable housing that we've had for 30, 40, 50 years. Doesn't look great. This is new construction. I can't see in what scenario this would decrease property values, unless the market is just completely, it just feels like, pocket communities are just incredibly egregious and offensive, so much so that values would go down. I don't see that. This is new construction. Some may argue that what he's putting here may look better than some of the maybe older housing stock that's in the same neighborhood, right? So I don't understand why there's a feeling that like this would decrease property values. I'm always happy to take in new information. I haven't heard what the threat is. I just haven't heard it yet. And And I think the most important thing, 'cause I hadn't done this in the last meeting, but I did it. I ran the numbers, and this is affordable for me, 100%. Or anybody that's in that 80% to 100% AMI with the household size that I have. So I think we need to 100% support this. We need to be consistent. As Mr. Wallach said, this is something that I want to say this lot was actually, or the individual that owns the lot was introduced to Mr. Wallach by the city as an opportunity. Hey, check this out. There's a vacant land. So this is, we've communicated to Mr. Wallach that this is something the city is interested in. We've supported him in kind of putting him together with a property owner here. He's gone through the process. I was also, this is the last thing I'll say, I had staff put together a chart comparing what a special use permit process requires, what a plan development process requires, and what Grant Street project, what he did. The only thing that he didn't do that is required in a plan development is a traffic study. And then it says public benefits, but as I've said to staff, and I think they agree with it, we can require a public benefit through a special process as well. It has to come before us. It's not by right. So if we want to say we want you to, this is the public benefit we want, then we could have stipulated that. We haven't, but we could have. So to me, the only thing that he really hasn't done is the traffic study. That's it. But it's not what was mentioned the other day by a colleague of mine, that it was like somehow he wasn't submitting civil plans or something. Like, it wasn't that. Every documentation and paperwork that we need for P&D is required in special use. The only thing, and again, I have this, got a whole checklist, right? That if somebody wants it, I can send it to you. He's met. So I don't understand the concern around this project. I think we should approve this. Sorry for taking so long. Thank you.
You have 40 seconds left. Councilmember Nusma, followed by Ravel. Or actually,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question about what exactly we're voting on here tonight. We're not being asked to, essentially relitigate or reapprove the proposal. We are being asked whether or not we should extend the time frame.
Yes, thank you. That's correct. So special use permits usually have a 1-year timeline for the applicant to get a building permit to start the project. This is just extending the date of the ordinance beyond that 1-year timeline.
And this did come before us at our last meeting. We thought the clock had run out or was going to run out, but why are we, if you could explain why we are still talking about this?
Absolutely. So previously, the ordinance said that the special use permit was valid on the date of approval or publishing. City staff was unaware that this ordinance was actually published on April 18th. So we thought the deadline was the date of the ordinance approval previously, but it could also be the date of publishing, which is April 18th. So we're honoring that.
It actually wasn't or, it was and. And publication. And.
Bottom line is we had more time than we thought.
That's correct.
Okay, great. I just wanted to clarify what it is we're being asked to vote on tonight. Thank you.
thank you. We have 4 minutes and a half left. Councilmember Ravel.
So first, I have a couple of questions for staff. Could you talk to us about how the sale of the affordable unit is going to be handled? Is that, does the developer, is he required to work with SEPA to find a eligible home buyer? How will that process all work?
So for home ownership, yes, the developer will coordinate with SEPA. We do have a wait list available for interested parties for different types of development. So they would coordinate with that, and then I would let the developer speak to anything further above and beyond their intentions of selling that affordable unit.
Point of information, can we clarify affordability in this context?
Yeah.
In this context, it's 80% of area median income, up to 100%.
Up to
correct?
100%.
Yep.
And if I may, I was just, the SEPA suggestion was just made to me about a week and a half ago. We immediately reached out to the person at the SEPA the day that we suggested. Yeah. We have a conference call with them tomorrow. We've said whatever is needed to get that done.
Because this is covered by our inclusionary housing ordinance, and I believe that SEPA is part of that process.
Correct. They support city staff in ensuring compliance with the city's affordable or inclusionary housing program.
And then let's say they'll be the first affordable home buyer, and then let's say 5 years later, this home buyer, right, it needs to move.
It would move to someone who continues to be income qualified and meeting those objectives of the 80 to 100% of area median.
And SEPA would continue to be involved in that whole process.
Correct. Yes,
Right.
they would help facilitate that.
Right, okay. Then the ordinance does not mention the completion bond requirement that we talked about a year ago.
I would need to verify that with Corporation Counsel, but I'm 100% positive that was added as part of the council's decision.
My understanding is it was added as part of our decision.
Correct.
But it doesn't, the language is not reflected anywhere in the ordinance.
Yeah, legal will check that. If it's not, it's a Scrivener's error and it will be corrected.
Okay, because I thought, well, maybe it's included in the phrase representation to the city council or something like that. But it would be, I think, important to have that back.
Yeah.
And so the ordinance does say that construction, this new ordinance, construction must be completed within a period of 24 months after issuance of the building permit, which then gets us all the way to October 18th of 2027.
That's correct. That is standard for all building permits that the city of Evanston issues.
Yeah. And so how will completion be determined?
Typically, that relates to the occupancy permits that are required prior to a development being occupied by any one individual. So city staff would require that there either be TCO, temporary occupancy, or final occupancy by that date.
Okay. And there'd have to be a separate certificate of occupancy for each unit? And
That is correct. Each of the individual units will have its own building permit and will require its own occupancy permit.
okay. Well, if I could try to summarize what I've heard, I think I've heard residents, thank you. Thanks, Liz. The concerns that I've heard from residents. So a lot of the concerns go to the financial capability of the developer. And, they cited bankruptcies in your past and particularly the slow progress of obtaining the mortgages for the development now. So I think that those are legitimate concerns. And then I guess I would say a concern about lack of regard for the project's neighbors. And what I mean by that is complaints were relayed to you about almost four weeks ago about the condition of the property and that there was quite a bit of brush and branches and it just looked very unkempt, shall I say. And you did assure us that all of that was going to be taken care of. Well, I was over at the site on Saturday. It looked exactly the same as it's always looked. So I think there's a concern about how, if the development goes forward, how you're going to be relating to the neighbors to be a good neighbor for them as you work on the project. There was concern about how this would become a B&B complex because there wouldn't be people who wanted to actually live there. It would become vacation rental. And so I guess I just wanted to reassure the residents, my thinking of where we are headed as a council is to put basically stop allowing vacation rentals in Evanston because we are concerned about how they detract from our supply of affordable housing. So I don't think that's going to be a concern. And then these continuing discussion about whether this is an affordable project or not. And Mr. Wallach has never claimed it would be affordable in the regular sense. I appreciate Councilmember Burns' discussion about, it being really attainable for your family. And this is meeting the need of the missing middle is something that we really have talked about and identified at City Council. It was highlighted in the research that was done in 2020 for our Affordable Housing Plan Committee. So it is meeting a need that we've talked about here on the council. And I guess I'd like residents, neighbors to consider the potential alternative. If we deny the extension that Mr. Wallach is requesting, Mr. Wallach or another developer could proceed by right to build a large duplex or a large townhome, one on each property. So, 4 units altogether, each with probably at least 3 bedrooms, each one 2.5 stories, 35 feet in height. And let's say there'd probably be at least parking for at least 2 cars each, and no completion bond would be required. So I think, in my view, that is a real likely alternative to this project. And the reasons we approved the project a year ago, we said that it provided welcome added diversity of housing types to Evanston, and provided the much needed missing middle housing. It's a neighborhood that already does have a mix of housing types with, 5 townhomes actually immediately to the east and townhomes and 2 family homes to the west. So it does fit into the neighborhood. And then I think we're particularly appreciative of the significant sustainable features of the houses. As Mr. Wallach mentioned, that is where we really need to see our housing go, with all electric building, on-site EV charging stations, et cetera. I won't go into all of that. So I think those were the reasons in our mind when we approved the project a year ago. And I think relying on the completion bond to ensure that the developer comes through with the project as proposed would provide the added insurance that this would actually happen. So those are my comments at the moment.
Thank you, Councilmember Hidekatis.
I have a quick question for staff related to VRBOs. So really appreciate Councilmember Ravel, you bringing up the VRBO portion of this. So in the current, these are all small single family homes. Currently as our ordinance is written, if you owner occupied, you do not have to go in front of planning and development. We've mentioned here before that I think the right course of action is to not allow non-owner occupied units to be rented. Is there any loophole for someone to have 2 properties and renting one? Because I think it's really important for something like this because, like me personally, I think there's a really big market for tiny homes, efficiency living. There's also a lot of, quote, fun VRBO rentals that really leverage that. And so currently the way things are structured, they would not be able to rent these as short vacation rentals, correct?
Correct. So if the owner does not live and reside within the unit for more than 6 months, I think that is how staff has currently viewed the owner occupancy requirement in our vacation short-term rental ordinance currently. So if someone were to purchase 2 units, they would not be occupying that second unit for 6 months. Now, I suppose you could get creative and swap back and forth between the 2. But this is something where I think in that instance, we would want the city council to clarify that. That goes a little bit beyond staff's administrative authority to interpret it. And so, I think in that instance, that loophole would not be one that we would entertain and would require it to come before city council.
Okay. I think that's probably part of a bigger discussion around
Absolutely.
How do we manage the VRBOs that are out there and how we track those. But yeah, I think as for me, I've many times said that we need more housing of all types across all affordability ranges, and you need to be abundant, attainable, affordable, all of those three things. So, I'm glad that, again, Councilmember Revelle bringing up the bond of completion. I think there are, I do get neighbors' concerns about this not being completed, but I think we have safeguards in place, and that's something I think also going forward as we do our zoning rewrite. I think we want to streamline these things so there's not as much subjectivity as to what gets built, what doesn't get built, because I think this process, lengthens things and also makes things ultimately more expensive. Inflation's not stopping, and time is money. So I think most of the neighbors' concerns are being addressed, and I'm in favor of this going forward.
Thank you. I will note that we're about 10 minutes over. Councilmember Burns, and then I think we're ready for a vote. These properties are gonna be sold, and then will you have any involvement after that? I know there's gonna be a homeowners association, but after that, you're removed from this property.
Quite likely that we might buy one.
What'd you say?
It's quite likely that we might buy one
Okay.
and live in it
Okay.
as our full-time residence.
Um,
But other than that, no.
yeah. You got to maintain the property, of course. That didn't look great for you when Councilmember Revelle said you're not. Because I don't need a response. It's just that's something that is incredibly important to me in the ward, is in the Fifth Ward, but I know it's important to all of us. We deal with a lot of calls like that, vacant lots. They're not being cut, they're not being maintained. So that is important that that's done now, but also throughout this process. These projects are hard to finance. So I have a group called the Here to Stay Committee. The goal is to help longtime Evanston residents afford to stay in Evanston. I work alongside developers all the time. There's developers, housing advocates, and people who have lived experience, who have experienced housing cost burden in the city of Evanston. Every single developer I've talked to has said the hardest projects to finance are home ownership. That's why you see so many rentals. I think I saw a comment in Evanston that was like, stop with all the rentals. We want home ownership. It's hard to finance. That's what everybody says. So again, when you're in this space, you would understand that it takes time. There's so many deals that we approve that haven't gotten off the ground because they couldn't find financing. What he's saying is he's found it, and now he wants to start construction. And the only other thing I want to say, because I know I've been kind of clear on why I do support this, I would not support container homes. And I talked to staff about this. The container homes that are nearby, if that would have came before council, I would have been a no on that. I still don't know how that got past us. I think that was something that was voted on administratively. I don't think we should be approving things that look like they fell off a truck. And I just want to be clear on that. So, I'm not just saying like throw everything out the window. Everything is a go. I looked at the photos. These look like nice dwelling units. Those container homes, I would have been a no on that. So I want to offer that to you so you know kind of where I am on this. And that's all. Thank you, Chair. Thank you. With that, I just have a few quick questions. It's come up a number of times. Well, first, before, if I can have you step away from the podium, I just have one question for resident. You mentioned that you have expertise in the mortgage realm. Would you mind answering the question? You mentioned concerns around home value and this potentially impacting property values.
Yes, I believe one of the directives of this committee and the Land Use Committee is that if there's a project that may adversely affect neighboring lots, that's an adverse component of that.
What is your basis for that?
What is my basis for this particular one?
Yeah.
Sure. I would say first and foremost, the idea that affordable housing, see, you keep bringing up the 80% of the average median income. And so in our area, that's $82,000, right? That's the 80% of the median piece. If you backtrack that and do a 50% loan to value, loan, The DTI on that, 50% DTI, debt to income ratio, that means that person could afford about $310,000 in a mortgage. So since he's selling these things for $349,000, that means this alleged affordable housing or obtainable housing means that person needs to have a $30,000 to $40,000 down payment in order to meet that 80% affordable definition. Right. And so right then and there's kind of a breakdown because people who usually can't afford don't have $50,000 in their pocket. Right. And so to
Just
me,
a point of, just one, I feel like you're not answering my question.
Oh, my fault.
But
My
to the point here, are you assuming a 10% down payment? When you say 30 to 40?
Yeah, I would say a 1% down payment would be, I mean, that you can get a mortgage for 1% down these days easily.
Right, sure.
You have Home Ready, you have all kinds of pieces. But for this particular piece, the main issue here to me is the cost per square foot, right? To me, the analogy is going to Giglio's, ordering an extra large and getting a 3-inch pizza. This is 600 square feet for $349,000. Just down the street, a single family home sold for $375,000. Right? They exist. So, again, are they few and far between? No. My first place in Evanston was on Central Street. It was a condo, and then I bought my place on Grant Street. I also live and work in Evanston. I've lived here my entire life. And again, I have nothing against these properties. This is not a NIMBY thing. This is just a bad project from my professional opinion. It's not going to assist Evanston of their goals of affordable housing, of obtainable housing. I'd much rather see, like you said, a 3-unit building, keep it within R3. It's an R3 lot, build R3.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah, thank you. So I appreciate that. I wanted to try to understand how it impacted value. I'm going to assume that you're not answering that.
My side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to adversely affect the value because they're not going to sell and they're going to be vacant. And if there's a prohibition on VRBOs or Airbnbs, they're going to sit there vacant. Right. Just as the same way as those, I know you don't like them just as much as we don't like them. Those container homes. I mean, that is a disaster. And the people who live next door, I guarantee they will not be able to sell their house for what somebody a half a block away will be. Right. I want to make sure we're not talking about a NIMBY situation. I'm not saying that's going to cause the things to go down because I don't want it in my backyard. I'm saying I don't want this in my backyard because it's going to adversely affect the values, because people are going to look at that and then look at our homes and say, I don't want to live next to 12 people who are, being loud or being, who knows? But
I
that whole
appreciate
piece is going to cause it to go down.
I feel like I'm hearing, I appreciate it. I thank you very much. I'm hearing conflicting things. I'm hearing that nobody's going to buy, and then I'm hearing that there's going to be 12 people next door. So it feels.
No, don't put words in my mouth. What I'm saying is that if and when there are completed, right? If we do miraculously sell all 12 of these, then we have again, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be an adverse piece because it's not going to make the place as desirable as it is. It's already the most dense area on Grant Street. We have Section 8 housing across the street. It's been vacant for 3 years, one of the units.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Sure. Councilmember Burns, 2 seconds.
I just want to say that because the facts matter. I was saying an affordability range, and we said that up here. So we said 80% to 100%. And there's a lot of different ways that people get down payments. I'll be happy to describe how I would pay for a down payment, but people come up with those in a lot of different ways. That's their business. But the point is that when you were dealing with home ownership, affordable housing and home ownership, there's a range, and we've said 80% to 100%. You're sticking to the lowest part of that range, but it goes all the way to 100%, and some goes up to 120% AMI.
Thank you. And then another question that I have, and these are my last 2 questions, and ready to vote. It was mentioned a number of times during public comment that Mr. Wallach hasn't been approved for financing. I don't know if I really need you to answer that question. I guess more so for staff. Is that something, and for legal, is that something that we have to is a part of our purview to be concerned about?
It's not typically a standard of review associated with these types of projects or building permit review. One of the items that the city council did put in place was a surety bond that ensured completion of the construction once it commences. And that is required to be held with the city until final occupancy is issued. So in that regard, there is some sort of financial mechanism should the developer not follow through with the project to completion.
And in this case, the developer has followed through with setting up the surety bond?
That
Or
is
will be.
required at time of building permit issuance.
Right, okay. All right, well, I have no further questions. I see no further lights, so with that, I will take a roll call vote.
Councilmember Harakaris.
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns. Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
And Councilmember Reid.
Aye. That the motion passes unanimously. I want to note that this is for introduction, so it'll go to council, and then if it passes today at council, it will return to us at our next meeting. Okay. So, thank you. With that, there's no further business before the Planning and Development Committee. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.